Hello, and welcome to Mysterious Stories. Have you ever heard of the chilling phenomenon known as missing 411? All across the United States, thousands of people have vanished without a trace from national parks and wilderness areas. These aren't just typical missing person cases. We're talking about strange, baffling disappearances that defy all logical explanation. Experienced hikers disappearing from well-trodden trails, children vanishing in the blink of an eye. What's even stranger are the recurring details. Are these just tragic accidents, or is there something more sinister at play? Join me as we delve deep into the unsettling world of missing 411 and try to uncover the truth. Don't forget to subscribe button. Now start investigation. There's something about the wilderness that calls to us. Maybe it's the promise of adventure, the peace of solitude, or the thrill of the unknown. But for some, the wild is not a place of escape. It's a place of vanishing. Every year, hundreds of people disappear in North America's national parks and forests, leaving behind only questions, broken families, and a chilling sense that something is deeply wrong. These are not ordinary disappearances. They are the heart of the missing 411 phenomenon, a collection of cases so strange, so haunting, that they defy logic and explanation. If you're watching this, you're probably like me, drawn to the dark, the mysterious, the unsolved. Maybe you've heard whispers of the missing 411 before. Maybe you've read the books by David Paulides, the former police officer who first noticed the patterns. Or maybe you're just now tumbling down the rabbit hole. Either way, I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never look at the woods the same way again. Let's set the stage. The term missing 411 refers to a series of mysterious disappearances in national parks and wildlands, meticulously documented by police. These cases share bizarre similarities. People vanish within moments, often in full view of others. Search dogs can't pick up a scent. The weather turns suddenly, hampering rescue efforts. Sometimes, the missing are found miles away, in places seemingly impossible to reach. Sometimes, they're never found at all. But what makes these cases truly chilling isn't just the vanishing. It's the details. The red jackets. The sudden storms. The eerie silences. The involvement of the FBI in cases where, officially, no crime has occurred. The families left with more questions than answers. And the sense, always, that something is lurking just out of sight. Tonight, we're going to journey into the heart of the missing 411 mystery. We'll explore the most haunting, unsolved cases. Stories that will make you question what you think you know about the world. We'll look at the patterns, the theories, the official explanations, and the chilling possibilities that no one wants to say out loud. And we'll do it with respect for the victims and their families, who deserve answers, not just speculation. But before we dive into the cases, let's talk about why these stories matter. It's easy to dismiss disappearances as accidents, to blame the elements, wild animals, or simple human error. And sometimes, that's exactly what happens. But the missing 411 cases are different. They challenge our assumptions about safety, about the power of nature, and about the limits of human understanding. They force us to confront the possibility that there are forces at work in the world, natural or otherwise, that we don't fully understand. And that's why these stories stick with us. They're not just about missing people. They're about the unknown. About the thin line between civilization and wilderness. About the things that wait for us in the dark, just beyond the reach of our campfires. So, who are the people who vanish? They're hikers, hunters, children, the elderly, experienced outdoorsmen, and city dwellers alike. There's no single profile, no easy answer. Some disappear in broad daylight, others at night. Some are alone, others are with groups. Some are found alive, with no memory of what happened. Others are found dead, in places that defy explanation. And some are never found at all. The official response to these cases is often frustratingly vague. Authorities cite exposure, animal attacks, getting lost, or even voluntary disappearance. But the families know better. They know their loved ones. They know when something doesn't add up. And so do the searchers, the park rangers, the volunteers, the trackers, who sometimes find themselves facing mysteries that shake them to their core. One of the most unsettling aspects of the missing 411 phenomena is the way the cases cluster. Certain locations, like the Great Smoky Mountains, Yosemite, Crater Lake, and the Adirondacks, seem to be hotspots for disappearances. Why? Is it just the rugged terrain, the unpredictable weather, the sheer number of visitors? Or is there something else at work, something that draws people in and doesn't let them go? As we move through these stories, I want you to keep an open mind. Some of the theories we'll discuss are rational, others are less so, but all of them are attempts to explain the unexplainable. And in the end, maybe that's what makes these cases so haunting. Not just the loss, but the mystery. The sense that, in a world where we like to think we have all the answers, there are still places and forces that remain beyond our understanding. So, grab a flashlight, check your compass, and whatever you do, don't wander off the trail, because tonight, we're going deep into the woods, where the shadows are long and the answers are few. In the next section, we'll begin our journey with one of the most infamous missing 411 cases, the disappearance of Dennis Martin in the Great Smoky Mountains. His story is the perfect entry point into this world of vanishing, confusion, and conspiracy. And as you'll see, it's a story that raises more questions than it answers. On June 14, 1969, the Martin family set out for what should have been a memorable Father's Day weekend in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The smoke, straddling the border between Tennessee and North Carolina, are a place of breathtaking beauty. Rolling green ridges, misty valleys, and ancient forests that seem to whisper secrets. But for the Martins, this trip would become a nightmare that still haunts the park to this day. Dennis Martin was just 6 years old, a bright, energetic boy with brown hair and brown eyes. He was wearing a bright red shirt, the kind of color you'd think would make a child easy to spot in the woods. Family. Dennis, his father William, his older brother Douglas, and his grandfather Clyde had spent the night at a cabin before hiking up to Spence Field, a high, grassy clearing surrounded by thick forest. It was a perfect spot for kids to play, and soon, another family with the same last name, Martin, by coincidence, joined them. The children quickly became friends, and before long, someone suggested a game of hide-and-seek. It's a detail that sticks with you. The innocence of the moment, the laughter echoing through the field, the sense of safety that comes from being surrounded by family. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The children scattered into the tall grass and trees. Minutes passed. One by one, the kids reappeared, except for Dennis. At first, no one panicked. Maybe he was hiding a little too well. Maybe he wanted to win the game. But as the minutes stretched on, a cold dread settled over the adults. William Martin began calling for his son, his voice growing more desperate with each unanswered shout. The search began immediately, with family and strangers alike combing the field, peering behind every tree and bush. But Dennis was gone. What followed was one of the largest search efforts in National Park Service history. Over the next week, more than 1,400 people joined the hunt. Park rangers, Boy Scouts, volunteers, even Green Berets from Fort Benning. Helicopters buzzed overhead, search dogs sniffed the ground, and the woods echoed with the calls of search. But despite the massive effort, not a single trace of Dennis was found. No footprints, no clothing, nothing. The weather turned against them. That first night, a torrential rainstorm swept through the mountains, washing away any tracks and making the search even more difficult. The terrain was unforgiving. Steep slopes, dense underbrush, hidden ravines. But the searchers pressed on, driven by hope and the haunting thought of a little boy alone in the wilderness. As the days passed, strange details began to emerge. Around the same time, Dennis disappeared, a family hiking in Cades Cove, just a few miles away, reported hearing a sickening scream and seeing a rough-looking man darting through the woods, apparently trying to avoid being seen. The Key family's account was chilling. The father saw a figure in the bushes, carrying something over his shoulder was Dennis. The authorities took the report, but for reasons that remain unclear, they never fully investigated the area where the sighting occurred. The official stance was that there was no evidence of foul play, but the questions wouldn't go away. Why did the FBI get involved in a case where, officially, no crime had occurred? Why would a Green Berets elite military personnel brought in? And why did they operate independently from the park rangers? Why did the National Park Service and the FBI seem to withhold information from Dennis's family, including the key family sighting? And why, after all these years, has no trace of Dennis Martin ever been found? Some believe Dennis simply got lost and succumbed to the elements. Others suspect he was abducted, be a stranger, a wild man living off the grid, or something even stranger. There are those who whisper about Bigfoot, about portals, about things that lurk in the deep woods. The truth is, no one knows. The case remains open, a wound that never quite heals. For the Martin family, the pain is unimaginable. For the rest of us, Dennis's disappearance is a reminder of how quickly the world can change, how thin the line is between safety and danger, between the known and the unknown. It's a story that echoes through the Smoky Mountains, a warning to every parent, every hiker, every dreamer who steps off the beaten path. But Dennis Martin's case is just the beginning. Across the country, in parks and forests, from coast to coast, others have vanished under equally mysterious circumstances. In the next section, we'll travel to another hotspot of the missing 411 phenomenon, Yosemite National Park, and explore the baffling disappearance of Stacy and Aris. A case that raises even more questions about what is really happening in America as wild places. Yosemite National Park is a place of legends. Its granite cliffs, towering waterfalls, and ancient sequoias have inspired awe for generations. But beneath the beauty, there's a darker side. A history of disappearances that have left even the most seasoned rangers baffled. Among these, the case of Stacy and Aris stands out as one of the most haunting and inexplicable. It was July 17, 1981, when 14-year-old Stacy and Aris arrived at the Sunrise High Sierra camp with their fate, they're in a group of other horseback riders. The camp, perched at nearly 9,400 feet, is remote and rugged, surrounded by alpine meadows and rocky outcrops. It's the kind of place where the world feels untouched, where the silence is so deep it almost hums. For Stacy, it was supposed to be an adventure, a chance to experience the wild beauty of Yosemite with her dad. After settling in, Stacy decided to take a short walk with a family friend, 77-year-old Gerald Stewart. She wanted to photograph a nearby lake, just a few hundred yards from the camp. Her father watched as she set off, comrade and chatting with Stewart as they made their way along the trail. It was a clear, sunny afternoon, and the path was well marked. There was no reason to worry, but as they neared the lake, Stewart grew tired and decided to rest on a rock. Stacy continued on alone, promising to return soon. She was never seen again. The search for Stacy began almost immediately. Her father, realizing she hadn't returned, alerted the camp staff, and within hours, a full-scale search was underway. Rangers, volunteers, and even helicopters scoured the area. The terrain was challenging. Steep slopes, dense brush, and rocky outcrops. But the searchers were determined. They found her camera lens cap on the trail, but no other trace of Stacy. No footprints, no clothing, no sign of a struggle. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The official explanation was that Stacy had become lost and succumbed to the elements, but those who knew the area and the case weren't convinced. The distance from the camp to the lake was short. The trail was visible, and the search began almost immediately. How could a healthy, experienced teenager disappear so completely, in broad daylight, with dozens of people nearby? As the days turned into weeks, the search expanded. Bloodhounds were brought in, but they couldn't pick up a scent. Davis searched the lake, but found nothing. The only clue was the lens cap, a small, almost mocking reminder that Stacy had been there, and then was gone. Theories swirled. Some suggested she had fallen into a hidden crevice or been attacked by a wild animal. Others whispered about abduction, or something even stranger. The park's silence on the case only fueled the rumors. For years, the National Park Service refused to release the full details of the investigation, citing privacy concerns. Even today, much of the case file remains sealed, adding another layer of mystery to an already baffling disappearance. For the Eros family, the pain was compounded by the lack of answers. Stacy's father, George, spent years searching for his daughter, refusing to believe she could simply vanish without a trace. He hiked the trails, questioned rangers, and pleaded for more information. But the wilderness kept its secrets. Stacy's case is a textbook example of the missing 411 phenomenon. A person disappears in a national park, in a short window of time, with no clear explanation and no evidence left behind. The search is massive, the authorities are tight-lipped, and the family is left in limbo. It's a pattern that repeats again and again across parks and forests all over the country. What makes these cases so unsettling is not just the loss, but the lack of closure. In most missing person cases, there's at least a theory, a plausible explanation, however tragic. But in the missing 411 cases, the explanations never quite fit. The details are off. The evidence is missing. The official story feels incomplete. And so, the questions linger. How could Stacy and Aris disappear so completely in such a short distance, with so many people nearby? Why did the search dogs fail? Why has so much of the case file been kept secret? And what does her disappearance say about the dangers and the mysteries of America's wild places? As we move forward, keep these questions in mind. The case of Stacy and Aris is not unique. In fact, it's just one of many disappearances in Yosemite alone. The park is a hotspot for missing 411 cases, with dozens of people vanishing over the years under circumstances that defy explanation. In the next section, we'll explore another baffling case, one that took place in the rugged wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. It's the story of a young boy who vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving behind a trail of clues that only deepened the mystery. His name was Jared Negrit, and his disappearance is a chilling reminder that, in the wild, the line between safety and danger is thinner than we think. The San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California are a place of rugged beauty and hidden danger. Towering pines, rocky outcrops, and winding trails draw thousands of hikers and campers every year. But for one family, these mountains became the setting for a mystery that has haunted them and the searchers who tried to help. For decades, Jared Negrit was just 12 years old when he vanished on July 19th, 1991. He was on his very first overnight camping trip with his Boy Scout troop, a rite of passage for many American kids. The group had set out to hike Mount San Gorgonio, the highest peak in Southern California, a challenging but popular destination. Jared was excited, a little nervous, but ready for adventure. The hike began like any other. The boys and their leaders made their way up the trail, stopping for breaks, taking in the views. But as the group climbed higher, the terrain grew more difficult. At some point, Jared fell behind. The details are still debated. Some say he was lagging, others that he took a wrong turn. What's certain is that, at a fork in the trail, Jared was separated from the group. When the troop realized he was missing, they retraced their steps, calling his name, searching the area. But Jared was gone. The search for Jared Negrit was massive. Hundreds of volunteers, search and rescue teams, helicopters, and dogs scoured the mountain. The terrain was unforgiving. Steep slopes, thick brush, sudden drought. The weather was unpredictable, with fog and cold temperatures complicating the effort. But the searchers pressed on, driven by the hope of finding a lost boy alive. In the days that followed, searchers found a few tantalizing clues. Jared's backpack was discovered, along with some candy wrappers and a camera. The film was developed, revealing a series of photos, mostly blurry shots of the ground and the sky, as if the camera had been dropped or handled by someone disoriented. The final photo was a close-up of Jared's face, eyes wide, lips chapped, dirt smudged on his cheeks. It's an image that has haunted everyone who's seen it. A silent plea for help, a snapshot of fear and confusion. But despite the clues, Jared was never found. No body, no clothing, no further evidence. The search was eventually called off, leaving his family with nothing but questions and heartbreak. How could a boy disappear so completely in an area that had been searched so thoroughly? Why did the search dogs lose his scent? What happened in those final hours after the last photo was taken? Theories abound. Some believe Jared became disoriented, wandered off the trail, and succumbed to the elements. Others suspect foul play, though there's no evidence to support it. Some point to the strange details, the camera, the lack of tracks, the way the clues seemed to appear in places that had already been searched. And then there are those who wonder if something stranger was at work, something that defies explanation. Jared's case fits the missing 411 pattern in almost every way. A young person vanishing in a national forest, with a massive search that turns up little more than a handful of odd clues. The official explanation is unsatisfying. The family is left in limbo, and the questions only multiply with time. For the Negrete family, the pain is ongoing. Every year, they return to the mountain, hoping for answers, for closure, for a sign that Jared is at peace. For the searchers, the case is a reminder of the limits of human effort, of the way the wilderness can swallow a person whole, leaving behind only echoes and mysteries. But Jared's disappearance is not unique. Across the country, in forests and parks from California to Maine, others have vanished under equally baffling circumstances. The patterns are there, if you know where to look. The sudden disappearances, the failed searches, the strange clues, the lack of closure. As we move forward, keep Jared's story in mind. It's a case that challenges our assumptions about safety, about the power of nature, and about the limits of our understanding. It's a story that reminds us that, in the wild, the line between adventure and tragedy is real. In the next section, we'll travel to the Pacific Northwest, to the dense forests of Oregon, where another child vanished without a trace. It's the story of DeWar Coons Jr., a case that has confounded investigators, divided a community, and left a family searching for answer in the world that refuses to give them. The Salmon Chalai National Forest in Idaho is a place of wild rivers, towering peaks, and deep, ancient woods. It's the kind of landscape that seems untouched by time, a place where the modern world feels far away. But for one family, it became the backdrop for a disappearance so baffling, so emotionally charged, that it has become one of the most debated missing 411 cases in recent memory. On July 10, 2015, 2-year-old Dor Coons Jr. arrived at Timber Creek Campground with his parents, Jessica Mitchell and Dor Coons Sr., his great-grandfather Robert Walton, and a family friend, Isaac Reinwand. The plan was simple: a weekend of camping, fishing, and family time in the Idaho wilderness. The group set up camp, unpacked their gear, and settled in for what should have been a peaceful getaway. But within hours, everything changed. According to the family, Dor was last seen playing near the campsite, just a few feet from his parents and great-grandfather. One moment he was there, the next, he was gone. The adults began searching immediately, calling his name, scouring the area, but there was no sign of the little boy. Panic set in, and soon the authorities were called. The search for Dor was immediate and intense. Law enforcement, search and rescue teams, volunteers, and even helicopters descended on the area. The terrain was rugged, thick brush, steep slopes, and a fast-moving creek nearby. But despite the massive effort, no trace of Dor was found. No footprints, no clothing, no evidence that he had wandered off or been taken. The search dogs couldn't pick up a scent, and the area was combed again and again, with nothing to show for it. As the days turned into weeks, the case took on a life of its own. The media descended, and the public became obsessed with the mystery. Theories flew had Dor wandered into the creek and been swept away. Had he been taken by a wild animal? Was there foul play involved? The family's accounts were scrutinized, their every word analyzed for inconsistencies. Rumors swirled, and the community became divided. The official investigation was complicated by conflicting statements and a lack of physical evidence. At times, law enforcement seemed to suspect the family. At others, they focused on the possibility of an accident. Private investigators were hired and fired. Theories ranged from the plausible to the bizarre. Some believed Dor had been abducted by a stranger, others that he had simply vanished into the wilderness, and still others whispered about supernatural forces at work. What makes Dor's case so haunting is the sheer lack of evidence. In most missing child cases, there are clues: a shoe, a piece of clothing, a trail of footprints. But in this case, there was nothing. The area around the campsite was small and open, making it unlikely that a 2-year-old could have wandered far without being seen. The creek was searched thoroughly, with no sign of Dor. The search dogs, so often the key to finding missing children, found nothing. The family's pain was compounded by the scrutiny and suspicion. Every detail of their lives was picked apart, every statement analyzed for hidden meaning. The community, once united in the search, became divided by rumors and accusations. For the Coons family, the loss was made even more unbearable by the lack of answers, the endless questions, and the sense that the world was watching and judging. Years have passed, and the case remains unsolved. The campsite is still there, a quiet spot in the Idaho wilderness, but for those who know the story, it's a place of sadness and mystery. The search for Dewar continues, with new leads and new theories emerging from time to time, but the truth remains elusive. Dorkun's Jr.'s disappearance is a textbook missing 411 case. A child vanishes in a wild place, with no evidence, no explanation, and no closure. The official theories don't quite fit. The search turns up nothing, and the family is left in limbo. It's a story that raises uncomfortable questions about the limits of our understanding, the power of nature, and the possibility that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. As we move forward, keep Dora's story in mind. It's a case that challenges our assumptions about safety, about the reliability of memory, and about the nature of loss. It's a reminder that, in the wild, even the smallest among us can disappear without a trace. In the next section, we'll turn our attention to the case of Paula Jean Weldon, a college student who vanished while hiking the Long Trail in Vermont. Her disappearance sparked one of the largest manhunts in state history and remains unsolved to this day. A chilling reminder that the missing 411 phenomenon is not limited by age, location, or era. The story of Paula Jean Weldon is one that has echoed through the forests of Vermont for more than 70 years. It's a tale that predates the term missing 411. It fits the pattern so perfectly that it is often cited as one of the earliest and most haunting examples. Paula's case is a reminder that the mysteries of the wild are not new, and that the line between civilization and wilderness has always been perilously thin. It was December 1st, 1946, when Paula Jean, an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College, decided to take a walk on the Long Trail. The Long Trail is America's oldest long-distance hiking path, stretching 273 miles through the Green Mountains of Vermont. It's a place of quiet beauty, but also of isolation, a place where, even today, you can walk for hours without seeing another soul. Paula was described as bright, independent, and adventurous. That Sunday afternoon, she told her roommate she was going for a hike to clear her head. She wore a red parka, blue jeans, and sneakers, clothing that would stand out against the winter landscape. She left campus around 2:45 p.m., hitchhiking a ride to the trailhead near Glastonbury Mountain, a place already steeped in local legends and strange tales. Several witnesses saw Paula on the trail that day. A local contractor gave her a ride and later described her as cheerful and polite. Other hikers saw her walking briskly along the path, alone but seemingly at ease. The last confirmed sighting was by an elderly couple who saw her heading north on the trail, just as the daylight began to fade. After that, Paula Jean Weldon was never seen again. When Paula failed to return to campus that evening, her roommate assumed she had stayed with friends, but by the next morning, concern turned to alarm. The college contacted her family, and soon a massive search was underway. Hundreds of volunteers, state police, and even the FBI joined the effort. The searchers combed the woods, scoured the trails, and questioned everyone who might have seen Paula. But there was no trace, no footprints, no clothing, no sign of a struggle. The only clue was a set of footprints that seemed to veer off the trail and disappear into the woods, but even that lead went nowhere. The search for Paula Jean Weldon was one of the largest in Vermont's history. Planes flew overhead, dogs were brought in, and the National Guard was mobilized. The case made national headlines, and the pressure on local authorities was immense. Yet, despite the scale of the effort, the wilderness kept its secrets. Theories about Paula's disappearance abound. Some believe she became lost and succumbed to the elements, her body hidden by snow and undergrowth. Others suspect foul play, perhaps an abduction by someone she met on the trail. There are even those who point to the strange history of Glastonbury Mountain, a place rumored to be cursed, haunted, or even home to mysterious portals. The area is part of what's known as the Bennington Triangle, a region infamous for unexplained strange lights and eerie happenings. What makes Paula's case so haunting is not just the lack of evidence, but the sense of unfinished business. Her family never gave up hope, hiring private detectives and following every lead. No matter how improbable, the case led to the creation of the Vermont State Police, as the lack of a coordinated response was widely criticized. Yet, despite all the attention, Paula's fate remains unknown. For the people of Vermont, Paula Jean Weldon's disappearance is more than just a cold case. It's a legend, a warning, and a source of endless speculation. Her story is told around campfires, in classrooms, and on hiking trails, a reminder that the wild is never truly tamed. Paula's case is a classic missing 411 story. A person vanishes in a wild place, with no evidence, no explanation, and no closure. The search is massive, the theories are many, and the family is left with nothing but questions. It's a pattern that repeats across decades and landscapes, from the forests of Vermont to the mountains of California. As we move forward, keep Paula's story in mind. It's a case that challenges our assumptions about safety, about the reliability of memory, and about the nature of the unknown. It's a reminder that, in the wild, even the most prepared and experienced can disappear without a trace. In the next section, we'll explore the case of Kenny Veach, an experienced hiker and adventurer who vanished in the Nevada desert after claiming to have found a mysterious cave that filled him with dread. His story is a modern mystery, fueled by the internet and speculation, and it raises new questions about what draws people into the wild and what keeps them from ever returning. The deserts of Nevada are a place of extremes, scorching days, freezing nights, and endless miles of barren, rocky terrain. It's a landscape that seems to stretch on forever, dotted with abandoned mines, mysterious caves, and the silent remnants of dreams long since faded. For some, the desert is a place of solitude and adventure. For others, it's a place of secrets. And for one man, it became the setting for a disappearance that has captivated and unsettled thousands. The case of Kenny Veach. Kenny Veach was not your average hiker. In his early 40s, Kenny was an experienced outdoorsman, inventor, and YouTuber who loved exploring the wild places of Nevada. He was known for his curiosity, his willingness to push boundaries, and his fascination with the unknown. In 2014, Kenny posted a comment on a YouTube video about strange occurrences in the Nevada desert, claiming to have found a cave near Nellis Air Force Base that was unlike anything he'd ever seen. He described the cave as M-shaped and said that as he approached it, he was overcome by a powerful sense of fear and dread. His whole body began to vibrate, and he felt an overwhelming urge to turn back. Kenny's account was so compelling that it quickly drew the attention of the online community. People urged him to return to the cave, to the committed, to find out what was inside. Driven by curiosity and perhaps a sense of obligation to his growing audience, Kenny set out to find the cave again. He made several trips into the desert, documenting his searches on video. In his last video, posted on November 10th, 2014, Kenny is seen hiking through the rugged terrain, searching for the elusive cave. He never found it on camera, but he promised to keep looking. A few days later, Kenny Veach disappeared. When he failed to return home, his girlfriend reported him missing. Search and rescue teams scoured the area where his cell phone was last pinged, near an abandoned mine shaft. They found his phone, but no other trace of Kenny. No backpack, no clothing, no footprints. The search was called off, and Kenny's fate remains unknown. The case quickly became an internet sensation. Forums, YouTube channels, and social media groups sprang up, dedicated to solving the mystery of Kenny Veach. Theories abounded. Some believed he had fallen into a mine shaft or succumbed to the elements. Others suspected foul play, perhaps related to the nearby military base. And then there were those who believed Kenny had found something truly extraordinary, something that didn't want to be found. What makes Kenny's case so compelling is the combination of modern technology and ancient mystery. His videos, still available online, offer a window into his mindset, a mix of excitement, apprehension, and determination. The desert, with its endless horizons and hidden dangers, becomes a character in its own right, both beautiful and unforgiving. Kenny's disappearance fits the missing 411 pattern in several ways. An experienced outdoorsman, vanishing in a wild place, with no evidence and no closure. The search is massive, the theories are many, and the family is left with nothing but questions. The involvement of the internet adds a new layer, turning the case into a kind of digital campfire story, told and retold by people who have never set foot in the Nevada desert. For Kenny's loved ones, the pain is real and ongoing. His girlfriend, family, and friends have searched tirelessly, hoping for answers, for closure, for a sign that Kenny is at peace. For the online community, The case is a puzzle to be solved, a mystery that refuses to yield its secrets. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of Kenny Veach's disappearance is the sense of unfinished business. The cave he described has never been found, and the questions he raised remain unanswered. What did he experience in the desert that day? Was it fear, intuition, or something more? And what draws people like Kenny into the wild? Knowing the risks, knowing that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. As we move forward, keep Kenny's story in mind. It's a case that challenges our assumptions about exploration, about the power of the unknown, and about the limits of human curiosity. It's a reminder that, in the wild, even the most experienced can be humbled by forces beyond their control. In the next section, we'll turn our attention to the case of Theodosia Burrell, a woman whose disappearance in the early 19th century became one of America's first great unsolved mysteries. Her story, shrouded in legend and speculation, is a testament to the enduring power of the unknown and to the way some vanishings become woven into the fabric of history itself. Long before the term Missing 411 was coined, before national parks and search helicopters, there was the story of Theodosia Burr Alston, a disappearance so mysterious, so steeped in legend, that it has haunted American folklore for over 2 centuries. Her case is a reminder that the unknown is not a modern phenomenon, and that the wilds of North America have always held secrets that defy explanation. Theodosia Burr Alston was born into American royalty, the daughter of Aaron Burr, the 3rd Vice President of the United States. She was raised in the heart of early American politics and society, intelligent, cultured, and fiercely independent. Theodosia was a woman ahead of her time. She married Joseph Alston, who would later become governor of South Carolina, and for a while, her life seemed charmed. But tragedy struck repeatedly. Her father's political career was destroyed after his infamous duel with Alexander Hamilton. Her only child died at a young age, leaving Theodosia devastated. In late 1812, seeking solace and reunion with her father, Theodosia boarded the schooner Patria in Georgetown, South Carolina, bound for New York. She was never seen again. The Patriot set sail on December 31st, 1812, with Theodosia and a small crew. The weather was rough, and the waters off the Carolina coast were notorious for storms and pirates. When the ship failed to arrive in New York, a massive search was launched, but no wreckage, no bodies, and no definitive clues were ever found. Theodosia had vanished, swallowed by the Atlantic. The disappearance of Theodosia Burr Alston quickly became a national obsession. Newspapers speculated wildly. Had the Patriot been sunk by a storm? Attacked by pirates? Run aground on the Outer Banks? Over the years, dozens of theories emerged, each more dramatic than the last. Some claimed to have found her belongings washed ashore. Others told tales of pirates who confessed on their deathbeds to murdering a beautiful lady and her crew. There were even stories of a mysterious woman, suffering from amnesia, who appeared in a remote village and was believed by some to be Theodosia herself. But none of these stories were ever confirmed. The truth of what happened to Theodosia remains a mystery. Her father, Aaron Burr, was devastated by her loss and spent the rest of his life haunted by the unanswered questions. For the American public, Theodosia's disappearance became a symbol of the dangers and uncertainties of the new nation, a reminder that, even in an age of progress and exploration, the wild could still claim its victims without a trace. What makes Theodosia's case so compelling, even after all these years, is the way it blends history, legend, and the unknown. She was a real person, with a real family, who vanished under circumstances that have never been fully explained. The search was massive, the theories were many, and the family was left with nothing but questions. It's a pattern that would repeat itself again and again, across the centuries, in forests, mountains, and deserts all over the continent. Theodosia's story is often cited as America's first great missing person mystery, a precursor to the missing 411 cases that would follow. It's a reminder that the unknown is not just a feature of the wilderness, but of our own history and imagination. The wild, whether it's the ocean, the forest, or the desert, has always been a place where people can vanish, leaving behind only stories and speculation. For historians and mystery lovers alike, Theodosia's disappearance is a case study in the power of the unknown. It challenges our assumptions about safety, about the reliability of evidence, and about the nature of loss. It's a story that has inspired novels, plays, and even operas, a testament to the enduring fascination with those who vanish without a trace. As we move forward, keep Theodosia's story in mind. It's a case that bridges the gap between past and present, between legend and reality. It's a reminder that, in the wild, the line between history and mystery is often blurred. In the next section, we'll explore the case of Brandon Swanson, a young man who disappeared in rural Minnesota after a series of chilling phone calls to his parents. His story is a modern mystery, filled with strange details and unanswered questions, and it highlights the way the missing 411 phenomenon continues to evolve in the age of technology. The story of Brandon Swanson is a chilling reminder that even in our GPS-enabled world, people can still vanish without a trace. His case is a modern mystery, one that blends the classic elements of the missing 411 phenomena: sudden disappearance, baffling clues, and a family left in limbo, with the eerie twist of technology that only deepens the sense of the unknown. It was the night of May 14th, 2008, when 19-year-old Brandon Swanson left a friend's house in Canby, Minnesota, to drive home to Marcia, a Tripofabuth, 30 miles through the flat, open farmland of southwestern Minnesota. Brandon was a college student, smart and responsible, with a close-knit family and a bright future ahead. He called his parents around midnight, saying he had accidentally driven his car into a ditch on a gravel road and needed a ride home. He sounded calm, a little frustrated, but not panicked. His parents, Annette and Brian Swanson, got in their car and drove out to find him. Brandon stayed on the phone, describing his surroundings and flashing his car's lights, but his parents couldn't see him. The confusion grew as they realized they were in different locations. Despite both being sure they were near the town of Lind, where Brandon believed he was. For nearly 47 minutes, Brandon and his parents talked, trying to pinpoint his location. He decided to walk toward what he thought were the lights of Lind, staying on the phone with his father. Then, suddenly, Brandon cried out, "Oh, shit." The line went silent. His father called back, but there was no answer. The call had ended, and Brandon was gone. The search for Brandon Swanson began immediately. Police, volunteers, and search dogs combed the area where his car was eventually found. Nowhere near Lind, but instead near the tiny town of Taunton, about 25 miles away. The car was stuck in a ditch, but there was no sign of Brandon. Searchers followed his likely path, using cell phone pings and scent dogs. But the trail ended abruptly at the edge of the Yellow Medicine River. The dogs indicated that Brandon may have entered the water, but no evidence was ever found. No clothing, no body, no footprints on the far bank. Theories about Brandon's disappearance abound. Some believe he fell into the river and drowned, his body carried away by the current. Others point to the lack of evidence and suggest he may have left the area, met with foul play, or even chosen to disappear. But those who know the case best, the searchers, the investigators, and especially Brandon's family, are haunted by the details that don't add up. Why did Brandon's car end up so far from where he thought he was? Why did the phone call end so abruptly, with a cry of alarm? Why was there no trace of him, despite the massive search and the open, flat terrain? And why, in an age of cell phones and GPS, was it so difficult to find a young man who was in constant contact with his family until the very last moment? Brandon's case is a stark example of the way the missing 411 phenomenon has evolved in the digital age. Technology, which should make us safer, sometimes only adds to the mystery. The phone records, the cell tower pings, the GPS data, all of it points to a disappearance that is as baffling as any from the days of Theodosia Burr Alston or Paula Jean Weldon. For the Swanson family, the pain is ongoing. They have become advocates for missing persons, pushing for changes in the way law enforcement responds to adult disappearances. Brandon's law, passed in Minnesota in 2009, requires police to take immediate action when an adult is reported missing under suspicious circumstances. But for Annette and Brian, the law is little comfort. What they want, what every family wants, isensos. Brandon's disappearance is a reminder that the unknown is not just a feature of the wilderness, but of our own lives and communities. It's a story that challenges our assumptions about safety, about the power of technology, and about the limits of human understanding. It's a case that lingers in the minds of everyone who hears it. A modern mystery, unsolved and haunting. As we approach the end of our journey through the most haunting missing 411 cases, we're left with more questions than answers. In the final section, we'll reflect on the patterns, the theories, and the enduring power of the unknown. We'll consider what these cases tell us about ourselves, about the wild, and about the mysteries that still wait for us, just beyond the edge of the map. As we reach the end of our journey through the most haunting missing 411 cases, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the stories we've explored. From the misty peaks of the Smoky Mountains to the endless Nevada desert, from the forests of Vermont to the rivers of Minnesota, each disappearance is a thread in a tapestry of mystery that stretches across time and space. These are not just stories of loss. They are stories of the unknown, of the limits of our understanding, and of the enduring power of the wild. What connects these cases? At first glance, they seem as different as the landscapes in which they unfold. Children and adults, men and women, experienced hikers and first-time campers, all have vanished, often within moments, often in full view of others. The searches are massive, the clues are few, and the explanations never quite fit. The official stories, accidents, animal attacks, getting lost, are plausible, but they rarely satisfy. There is always something off, some detail that refuses to be explained away. One of the most striking patterns in missing 411 cases is the clustering of disappearances in certain locations. National parks like Yosemite, the Smokies, and the Adirondacks are hotspots, as are remote forests, deserts, and mountain ranges. These are places of beauty and danger, places where the wild still holds sway. The disappearances often share eerie similarities. Sudden weather changes, the involvement of search dogs that can't pick up a scent, the presence of water nearby, and the baffling way in which the missing seem to vanish without a trace. Another pattern is the response of authorities. In many cases, the National Park Service, local law enforcement, and even the FBI become involved, sometimes in ways that raise more questions than answers. Files are sealed, information is withheld, and families are left in the dark. Theories abound. Some rational, some fantastical. Was it foul play a wild animal? A fall, a drowning, a simple case of getting lost? Or is there something more, something that defies explanation? Theories about the missing 411 phenomena are as varied as the cases themselves. Some point to the dangers of the wilderness, the unpredictability of nature, the risks of hypothermia, the presence of predators, the disorienting effects of isolation. Others suggest human causes, abduction, foul play, or even organized crime. And then there are the more outlandish ideas: Bigfoot, portals, government cover-ups, and supernatural forces. Each theory has its proponents, and each case seems to invite its own set of possibilities. But perhaps the most unsettling truth is that, in many cases, we simply don't know. The wild is, by its very nature, unpredictable and unforgiving. It is a place where the rules of civilization do not always apply, where the line between safety and danger is red. For every case that is solved, there are dozens that remain open, unsolved, and haunting. What do these stories tell us about ourselves? They remind us of our vulnerability, our curiosity, and our need for answers. They challenge our assumptions about safety, about the power of technology, and about the limits of human knowledge. They force us to confront the possibility that, even in the 21st century, there are mysteries that remain beyond our grasp. For the families of the missing, the pain is ongoing. The lack of closure is a wound that never heals, a question that is never answered. For the searchers, the cases are a reminder of the limits of human effort, of the way the wild can humble even the most prepared and determined. For the rest of us, the stories are a warning and an invitation. A warning to respect the power of nature, and an invitation to keep searching, to keep asking questions, to keep exploring the unknown. As we close this chapter, it's important to remember that the missing 411 phenomena is not just about the people who vanish. It's about the people who are left behind. It's about the families who keep searching, the communities that come together, and the searchers who refuse to give up. It's about the enduring power of hope, even in the face of the unknown. So, what can we learn from these cases? Perhaps the most important lesson is to respect the wild, to prepare for the unexpected, and to never take safety for granted. But there is also a deeper lesson, a reminder that, no matter how much we think we know, there are still mysteries in the world that defy explanation. The wild is not just a place on a map. It is a state of mind, a reminder of the limits of our understanding, and a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. As you finish this video, I hope you carry these stories with you, not as tales of fear, but as reminders of the wonder and mystery that still exists in the world. The missing 411 cases are haunting, yes, but they are also a call to curiosity, to compassion, and to the never-ending search for answers. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, the wild is always closer than you think. Thanks for watching. Subscribe my channel for more interesting and mysterious stories.